I'm back with another marine lift bag video. I want to share my progress on my second generation lift bag that I used to install the dock that I'm currently standing on. This large dock section was a little tricky to manage with just a single lift bag, but now I can easily install this thing with my dual bag setup using the newly designed bag. Being able to inflate and deflate on demand to make small adjustments is infinitely better than getting in the water and muscling things into place. This new bag is bigger and incorporates sewing in addition to heat welding, which allowed me to construct this bag in a shorter amount of time than the first version, which was only heat welded. I also added a few other improvements that I'll get into later. If you haven't seen my original video for version 1, I'll put a link to it in the description below, along with links to the materials and tools used for this build. If you like this kind of stuff, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Alright, let's get into it. I'm using the same 840 denier TPU coated nylon that I used for my version 1 bag, which is 60 inches long. This time I'm going to extend the length by about 15 inches for a total of 75 inches long. This fabric is 57 inches wide, and I'm cutting it in half, so each side of the lift bag will be about 29 inches wide. A little fabric chalk and a straight edge makes quick work of marking everything out so I can get some reasonably straight cuts. Alright, now that my two pieces are cut out, I'll move over to a table to save my back, which is what the lift bag is intended to ultimately save, right? To get an idea of where I want to put my strap retaining handles, I brought over the V1 lift bag to help me figure out the placement. Stick around to see the improvements that I made to these handles and to the supply hose, which is annoyingly always attached to the bag. After measuring for what felt like 1,000 times, I finally got everything laid out and marked where I wanted it. I'm changing my handle design to be a simple doubled over piece of fabric, and I'm going to sew it in place and heat weld a patch on the underside to seal off the holes made from sewing. To temporarily hold the handles in place, I'm using this double-sided tape called basting tape, which is commonly used for sewing projects. The sewing machine that I'm going to use for this super heavy material is the legendary Sailrite Ultrafeed LSZ, which is a semi-industrial sewing machine. It has what's called a walking foot design, where the material is fed through the machine from both the top and the bottom, which allows it to feed really nicely. I recently got this machine, and I'm super pumped to start putting it through its paces. It's a little pricey, but it's pretty high quality, and I love that it's portable. I don't think you'll find a better machine at this price point. I'll put a link in the video description if you want to check it out. I'm going with a box X stitch at the ends of each handle. I pre-marked the stitching path with fabric chalk to help me stay on track since I'm not a pro with this machine yet, and it has a ton of power. Managing this huge piece of fabric while sewing was pretty challenging because it's not very flexible, and I wanted to avoid creasing it or doing anything that could potentially compromise the TPU coating, which is what provides the airtight seal that I need for this to function as a lift bag. The technique that I went with was to reverse the sewing direction to avoid having to turn the material in a way that was too difficult to manage. This machine requires you to manually hold the reverse lever down since it's spring-loaded. This requires taking your second hand off the material, which I'm not really a fan of. I love the machine, but this feature doesn't really make sense to me. I might see if I can design some sort of mod to hold the reverse lever down in situations where I need to sew in reverse for something less trivial. Maybe I'll make a separate video on that. Let me know in the comments if something like that interests you and consider subscribing. Alright, now that I have all four handles sewn on, I'll heat weld some patches on top of the stitching to make the area airtight. I'm using the same modified leather working iron that I used in my previous lift bag video to heat weld the material. I welded some scrap pieces over the areas that I accidentally touched the iron to and slightly damaged the TPU coating. Some of these are probably fine, but I think it's worth beefing them up a little bit for some extra insurance. I'm going with the same dual right angle barb design so I can feed the bag with two hoses. I still don't know if this is totally necessary, but I did this on the V1 lift bag, and I've been happy with the fill and deflate performance, so I'm just going to stick with that design. With the magic of editing, I'm making this look like it's fast to heat weld, but full disclosure, it takes quite a while to do. The iron is small, which makes it nimble, but to cover a lot of area, you have to work at about 1 to 2 inches at a time and hold it in place for close to 20 seconds. Then after each weld, I seal it in place with my green silicone roller. My raw footage for this whole video was about 6 hours long. Not all of this was heat welding, and I also skipped including some of the repetitive welding steps. I think like 4 hours of heat welding is probably pretty accurate. Sealing up the edges of the bag is pretty easy because you can go in a straight line, so you maximize the full length of the iron. Something new that I'm doing is to heat weld the corners to seal them off and then punch holes in them so I can install metal grommets just like the ones that you typically see around the perimeter of a tarp. I got this awesome grommet crimping kit that I'll link in the description. The grommets give me more attachment point options, but my primary motivation for adding them is so I can hang the bag on the wall and out of the way. Like I said before, I'm going with the same dual hose barb design and joining them together with a Y connector, but this time rather than permanently attaching the supply hose to the Y connector, I'm installing a male quick connect. Then I put a female quick connect on the supply hose so I can connect and disconnect the supply as needed. Now I don't have to have an unwieldy hose connected to the bag at all times, which I found most annoying for transport and storage. I also modified my V1 lift bag to use this same design. Alright, let's try pumping this thing up. I'm still using this manual inflation pump that the folks over at Nixie Sports sent me for my demo of the V1 lift bag last year. I'm super happy with this thing, and I'm glad that I don't have to deal with battery issues for an electric pump. The new bag takes a little longer to fill because of the increased size, but it's not that bad at all. I added a second quick connect to my custom air manifold so I can have both lift bags connected at the same time. Now that I have the bag inflated, I can mark the spots where it looks like it could use a little more heat welding. I broke out the iron again and carefully hit those spots to make sure everything is solid. Awesome, everything looks great after a second inflation. When inflating, I target just under 1 psi. It could probably hold more, but from using it to put my dock in last season, 1 psi was totally enough. Here we are a year later after trying out the first lift bag. I really wanted 2 bags to help me place this large dock section that goes at the end of my dock. I built another wood support structure that looks like a narrow ladder to support the dock and hold the bag in place. The new bag worked out beautifully. Floating the large dock section with 2 bags was super stable, and it didn't want to roll like it did last year with just 1 bag. These lift bags have far exceeded my expectations. I'm kind of blown away that they work so well because this is basically just a prototype that's one step away from the initial idea. Alright, well I hope you found this useful, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Cause they know I got the sauce. Got the presence on me, I can't ever take it off. That's why I came country boy stepping, yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Country boy stepping, yeah, I'm